I got a prophetic word when I was in California, and someone said, I feel like the Lord's going to give you one of the buildings that was used during the Great Awakening. And he said, you need to call your assistant in Connecticut. The building fell. You can't say to somebody, a building fell. And I went, oh no. And I'm supposed to give this great word to these guys tonight. And at that moment, I'm sitting on the plane and I'm going, God.
But let's talk about the wearing down of what it's like to stay pastoring.
You see leadership. It doesn't matter when people are clapping who you are with thousands of people. When there's pressure is when you're really shown who you are.
Hey everybody, this is Rita Springer. Welcome to another episode of the Rita Springer podcast, and worship is my weapon. Today, I want to talk with a really good friend. How long have we known each other now?
Oh man, 2007?
Yeah, something like that.
So 16 years, 17 years?
I think so. And I've had you on the show before, James Levesque.
Levique. Yeah.
Levique, because it's French. Right?
It is.
But I had you on our Audible podcast when I first started
Bad
doing
behavior.
the podcast.
That's right.
Yeah, and we were talking about bad behavior in the church, but you really told your testimony, and you've got an incredible testimony. That podcast is a must listen to. You got to go back and listen to this guy's testimony is great. But you called a few weeks ago, and you were coming into Nashville. But your story is just like, sometimes it just gets crazier and crazier and crazier to the point where I often wonder if you'll ever give up. Because
it's true, man.
Because you get to a place in this, you planted a church, so that's so much more difficult to me than trying to stay in the music business. Maybe some people would beg to differ that, but you had this vision, you planted a church, but it's been hell.
Crazy.
It's been literal
Crazy. Yeah.
hell, almost like a few chapters in Job kind of hell.
Right. Yeah. Especially this last year.
Yeah, this last year. So you would just called, because I haven't talked to you since the last flood.
Right.
But and I thought it'd be so great to just have you come on too, and really go after the heart of why you plant a church and how to stay a dreamer in the midst of being a pastor. Right. And being shredded, not just by people, but shredded by weather, by leaders, by all kinds of different things. But you've got to keep the goal of why you did this in the first place, because that's where I see a lot of stars falling. Right. Is that somewhere it became about something that it never was supposed to be 100%. About. So, like, first of all, you planted your first church in Connecticut. 17
years old. Crazy. Yeah, New London, Connecticut.
Yeah. Engaging Heaven.
Yep.
You did that out of getting saved?
Just, pork chop potato, homeless man in a garage. I dropped out of high school, had a kid at 16. Yeah. And I just meet God, and I just start feeding homeless people. Right. I mean, if you think about it, there really wasn't another path. Like, what was I going to do? Go to seminary? Right. Like, you know what I mean? There wasn't a denomination that was going to believe in me. Yeah. But God spoke to my heart, said, do it. And it was crazy. The minute I started feeding the homeless, I think I talked about it on your podcast, got a call from a lawyer, just got a building, given to us. And it was crazy. And I feel, I think if you stripped it all down, it's like, man, we are called to see people's lives changed, right? Yes, we are. Make disciples, go into the world, whatever you want to call it. And it's like, I don't know, man. I feel like having a community of people that truly love God. Yeah. Man, I don't think there's anything like it.
But even with you, I don't see a lot of guys starting churches from the perspective of, and maybe you did, but you know how it's like, it's all sweet when it's a home group. Sure. It's amazing when it's an upper room.
No doubt.
And you're not even on the weekends yet. You're Wednesday nighters. Like
right.
You start your meetings on Wednesday
for
night.
Sure.
And it's this sweet, beautiful thing, and you can still do potluck and eat what people bring because nobody really cares about a gluten allergy. Right. You know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden you get the building.
Yeah.
And then you get the staff. And then you get more than 50 people coming. You've got 100, 150 people coming. Now you've got 200, 250. Now you've got 300. And along the way, church becomes a corporation.
Right.
And you lose the mentality. Were you no different? Like, here's this rough neighborhood kid who you can't really find fathers to believe in you, but you found some really beautiful ones.
Yeah, thank God.
And they still, I think there's still ones that are with you that back you.
Yeah.
But you're not cut from the, clean cut, sweet little AG pastor guy. No. And so you've got a lot of stuff against you planning a church anyway.
Right.
But you're not probably going to draw like 10,000 people to build how do you even walk through that? Do your goals just ever change? How do you do it? Because everybody suffers from this. I can't even say in the music business, when you release a song, you want it to do well.
Sure.
You're looking at the streams.
Yeah, no doubt. You want to grow, of course. Yeah.
How do you find the balance in all that? Because I think that's where the stars are falling.
I think you're right. I think if you start from, the end is what? Right? I mean, at the end of this thing, the end goal is what I'm saying. It's not money. It is for some people.
Right.
It's not money.
It would be, yeah.
For me, been to 80 nations, helped plant, almost 100 churches now. I did, wrote books, did these things. But for me, my joy, my true joy, not speaking at big stage, although I've done those things.
Yeah.
My joy is seeing lives changed on a street level.
Right.
It just does it.
That does something to
Oh,
you.
bro, it does it for me. Feeding the homeless, which we feed up to 100 every day. That does it for me. I'm just saying for real. Like, it's not the money. It's not fame. It's not, views. I promise you. I mean, I'm not going to say no to it. We want to grow.
Right.
But I feel like if I chased that thing, I would lose what I have. Because I don't have education. I wasn't here because my mom and dad were pastors. Right. Like, I really met God.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to touch heaven and give it to everybody that I could find.
Because of the life altering.
Yeah, man.
That Jesus did for you. So
and
do you think that's what's missing?
Oh, I think you easily get away from. I mean, think about this. Like, we meet the Lord, we fall in love with him, and then we find out we're gifted, right? You're an icon with your voice.
We fall in love with them, then we find out we're gifted.
You find out you're gifted. And it's like, then you start to go, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You've empowered my voice that when I do this thing that comes natural to me, it does affect people, right? I realized at a young age, when I open my mouth and I talk, people really would, especially after more I encountered the Lord.
Right.
Well, I think it's easy. We forget. We talk about Revelation where Jesus like, oh, you forsook your first love. But the truth is that wasn't to unbelievers. He actually said that to an incredible church. Hence, Jesus was like, I commend you for this. I commend you for this. It was like, I don't know if he would say that about any of these churches out here today. Think about it. He's going, I honor you for this. I dislike them. So do you. You have a great discernment. And then he says to this burning great church, there's one thing I hold against you. The Passion says it great. You've abandoned the passionate love that you had for me at the beginning.
Yeah.
I think that's what happens.
Yeah.
Right? You abandon the only thing that made you great.
Yeah.
Was you love Jesus. Girl, you love Jesus. In the midst of your story's nuts.
Yeah.
You loved him. Like, I really love God. You know what I mean? And I don't want to abandon. You see these mugshots and these perverts and all these people. Come on, man. You walked away years ago from the passionate love that you had at the beginning. And I just don't want that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say no to growth.
Do you feel like, though, James, that... Hey, everybody, just want to let you know about a conference that I get to be a part of in Atlanta, Georgia, at the end of April, starting April 29th to May 1st, the Orange Conference. If any of you are in leadership with youth at your church, you would be familiar with Orange. Orange is one of the top curriculums in the church today for children. The Orange has a conference every year. I believe the speakers this year are Lecrae and Erwin McManus. I'm going to be leading some worship, so click this link that's shown here, and you can register for this event. Again, that is April 29th through May 1st in Atlanta, Georgia. Because, okay, so when you get saved out of such wretched stuff that you got saved out of, that people, not everybody has that story. Very few people have that story.
Sure.
So is it the severity sometimes of how we get saved that actually sometimes dictates how deep we love and how deep we're changed? Because when you do look at what's happening sometimes in the body of Christ with pastors falling and different things like that, my question always is, well, how deep was the well to begin with that you could have actually forsook your first love? Because it bothers me,
right,
if I'm not where I need to be with the Lord,
right,
and it may take months sometimes to get back to the prayer walk or the prayer life or the full trust or the out of the circumstance or the season, but every day my thoughts are on the Lord,
yeah,
and I'm talking to the Lord constantly.
You're not far away.
I couldn't even imagine doing my life without God,
right,
and I had opportunity to walk away from it. But there was something in me that was like, I would be lost if I did that. Do you think that maybe what we're saying was first love wasn't first love?
Yeah, I think that could happen. Absolutely. I mean, I think, power really is scary.
Yeah.
And these churches go, I mean, who's checking them?
Right.
There's such power. There really is a God complex. And I think there's a temptation, especially when money's involved and power's involved. You start to believe something that's just not there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I went from pastoring, which I still oversee, this, inner city. I mean, you've been there, New London, just low income, average income's 25 grand a year, nothing.
Right.
And then God brings us to a beach community where everybody has money, and, there's never... there's a path where you can forget who you are.
Yeah.
I won't. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just can't do it. It's funny. An old lady came to me and was like, why does your arm say broken? Well, Brenda, when I was at, one of the worst seasons of my life at 19, 20 years old, I literally was like, I feel horrible, God, where are you? And he's like, it's called brokenness. And if you don't forget how could most people that I know, I've been pastoring a while now. Yeah. Most people I know that have been through what you've been through, they would never step foot in a church. They're bitter at people. And you said to me, I just knew Jesus wasn't like them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel that same way. God is not, you can sell out. I'm not going to sell out. It's just not a price worth it for my soul and my heart and what really moves me. You and I both know people that have lots of money and lots of fame are some of the most jacked up people we've ever seen. People that this world thinks are important preachers, these guys are messed up. They're on drugs. They're being fed by doctors' pills. Like, what? Yeah. What are we exchanging?
Right.
A life being transformed. Somebody I just baptized recently at the beach last week. Forget it. I wouldn't give that up for anything. Yeah. I'm seeing lives transformed.
But so you say, it's interesting because you say, sell out, I'm not going to do it. But let's talk about the wearing down of what it's like to stay pastoring.
Yeah, no doubt.
So walk us through. You plant Engaging Heaven in New London. You're in a building. I remember that first building.
Iconic building. Yeah, it was incredible. One of the first 50 ever built in America.
Okay, but then you end up getting. But is that the building that ended up falling to the ground?
That's the one that fell to the ground.
But that wasn't the first building.
Oh, no, yeah, you went all the way back to my storefront days.
Right.
Yeah, you came up before I even had a storefront.
Okay, so you have this storefront. Your church is growing. You're seeing things happen in that kind of poorer community.
Crazy.
But you're praying for building. You're believing for things like every other church that's planted believes for the things they need to believe for. And you end up getting this historical.
Incredible.
So can you walk us through that?
Yeah, it's a prophetic journey. I mean, the reality is I remember being on that storefront, asking God for more space. I got a prophetic word when I was in California, and someone said, I feel like the Lord's going to give you one of the buildings that was used during the Great Awakening. Man, it was just crazy. So as I'm in this pressure, I'm like, well, I remember this word, Lord. So I start Googling New London, Connecticut, Great Awakening. I went to Yale University in their library, James Davenport in the New London Revival. Like I'm just scouring. When I catch a building, bro, I'm in. I found that building. I kept looking it up, and lo and behold, that thing was across the street from.
So you discovered the building based on the word.
Based on the prophetic word.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then I called, and the secretary answered, 1,000-seater. From the church. And what do you even say? I'm like, I got a question. Do you guys, are you open to renting your building once in a while or permanently? And this little pit bull was like, no, we don't do stuff like that. Da-da-da-da. So who's the pastor?
What is the church now? Like, what was the church when you called it?
It was First Congregational Church.
Okay, had it always been under that
title? But they weren't meeting in the sanctuary. It was storage because they couldn't afford the heat. They were meeting in the little fellowship. I mean, this building was...
And how long does this date back?
This was 2000. This was 2008, 9.
Okay,
12/9/09.
Okay, in 2009, but how old's the building?
Oh, the building was, 1800s. So it was,
wow.
When it collapsed, I think the date was 185 years or something. And I had it for 7.
Okay.
So the building's kind of condemned.
Yeah.
And I get
needs repairs.
Yeah, I get the woman's name. I meet her, we connect. And I'm like, and it's funny because, out of the history of the church, the Jonathan Edwards preached there, George Whitefield preached there. Like that was like a 3-year period in that building that they didn't recognize. And here's this 29-year-old pastor or whatever. And I'm like, that's the only thing I want about this history.
Wow.
And so they were a little suspect on that because they're like, you're a little crazy. I'm like, and I remember sitting in the room. And the funny thing is I had a dream that God is crazy. I had a dream that I bought a house on the water for $250,000 that was in foreclosure that God breathed on. And Pastor Brian was like, I think that's a church building. And sure enough, I found it. We were by the water. So I sit in front of all these old people and all their boards and elders and, a deacon-possessed church. I said, look, I want this building. The thing's basically in foreclosure. And, it's a gift, right? I just go with what hits. There's no filter in my head. You understand?
Right.
I said, look, I want this building. I had prophetic words about it. They're all like, congregationalists, like all souls type. Yeah. I said, here's the deal. The only thing I care about are those 3 fanatical years, but I really care about them. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to sell me the property for $250,000, and you're going to be the bank of this building. And you're going to give me this percentage rate. And we're going to put a little bit every year as we grow into it. We got to keep it up. I said, say no, you'll be outside because the whole thing's going to not be, it's just destroying.
Right.
Or you can realize that you're never going to, in this city, you're never going to get a 29-year-old caring about this property. People don't want these old, gross churches. Right. So you got to make a decision if you want it or not. And they took it. So we took the building.
So they became the bank.
They became the bank. We took over the building. We let them meet there. And we just did all we could to just, strike the ground, release the sound, win souls, feed the homeless. That's where we feed the homeless. Yeah. And then, planting other churches.
And that's 2009.
That was our base. 2012, we plant one near New Haven, another Engaging Heaven. Then we plant one in Montana, another Engaging Heaven. Then I start helping others plant churches that we're not in. I just love planting church. Right. I just want to help presence communities transform areas. And then, just about 2020, the beginning, we moved down to Florida. I'm still going back and forth.
Now, why did you guys end up moving to Florida?
To be honest, I felt like I was dying, man. We were helping a church in New Rochelle, New York. We were in Hartford resurrecting a church, and I just felt dead.
Worn out.
Yeah, well, I felt like I had a spiritual mom that I loved. I mean, her name was Georgiana. When I was at that dead AG church, this prophetic lady with a flower in her hair, there's like one real one in the group. Yeah. She ran up to me and was like, boy, God gave you a voice to preach the gospel. Nobody would tell me that. And she said, go get a soapbox and preach, son. I didn't know what a soapbox was. And when she got sick and was in an old folks home.
Wow.
And I would sit by her bed and pray for her. And I would look around where she's dying. Man, I look like hell.
Wow.
Disgusting. I mean, she had 2 master's degrees, filled with the Holy Ghost at 4 years old. And I'm just telling you my story on this. I looked around and was like, it's not what I want. I was already feeling like I was dying, and there was no reason to. Right. Everything was growing, Yeah. And I don't have, I'm not swinging in emotions or anything crazy. I just felt like if I stayed here, I would die inside.
Wow.
And I just said to my wife, I got to go. And if that means I go get a job, I don't care.
Yeah.
It's not about that for me.
Because you've released your
we put everybody was, And so I said, we just got to go. We didn't know we were going to.
Still overseeing these churches.
Oh, yeah. Flying back and forth to preach, right? It's a income stream, but, not much. But, I was still overseeing. To this day, we have great pastors there, and I oversee, and just apostolically, but it's all through relationship.
So why Miramar?
Madeira, you mean?
Madeira.
We were, here's something crazy. I prayed, and I said, God, I don't know where to go.
Yeah.
This is going to mess with you. And I don't think I've ever told people this. I said, I don't know where to go, but I have to go. And I'm telling you, the Holy Spirit told me so clear, wherever you go, I'm going to be with you and I'll bless it.
Wow.
Now that messes with you. I just knew that God could trust my feelings.
Wow.
I wasn't here.
That's actually really beautiful.
Yeah, I felt like God was like, you've been faithful, man, in Connecticut, feeding the homeless, and I love you, and wherever you go. And that's crazy. Most people can't be trusted with that question.
Right.
One time I heard a bunch of girls in my hallway going, the Lord said, if you just say what you want, he'll give it to you. I said, not for you, baby cakes. You know what I mean? It's not, come on, you're a little ratchet. You know what I mean? Like, he's talking about those that are close to him, not out there shucking around. You know what I mean? And, but I knew God was just telling me. And so now you're going, well, where would we want to go,
Hey, I want to take some time to just, again, thank Amazing Kids Curriculum. I love Amazing Kids. Connie and Tyler Bates have created an incredible children's curriculum for churches. And what is so great about this is if you're planting a church and you are, perhaps you're in a church that's maybe not a big church, but it's a small church that's growing, but you really need Bible-based, Holy Spirit-filled curriculum for your littles in your church. This curriculum is stunning. You can access this by going to amazing.kids and looking through their material and how to sign up for your type of church. Again, this is incredible curriculum. It is Bible, theology-based, Holy Spirit-filled curriculum, and you will not be disappointed in what God does with this curriculum and how he uses it to bring life and the word to the kids in your church. Well, I'm marveling at the concept of people who can't trust themselves.
Yeah, you can't.
To know the desire in their heart to choose something that to actually think God would be with us. Because sometimes it's so religious that it's like, well, the Lord told me to go here, and we're just waiting to do what the Lord wants.
Right.
And I think sometimes God is. I've seen that God's
100%.
Like, I'll be with you wherever you go.
Absolutely.
Wow.
But we're assuming you're in the right relationship.
Yes. Yeah.
I think a lot of people can't be trusted with their feelings.
Yeah, that's true.
Every time the Bible says don't be deceived, 4 more times it says don't deceive yourself.
Yeah.
Like you can really lead you off.
Right.
And I just have an ability. Like, I'm not, I care, but it's like, that's not the goal.
Right.
The goal is like, God, where do you want me?
Yeah.
And I remember
you trusted that with him then, and you chose.
I did. And I got I got a little nervous because I wanted better weather. And I was like upset about, I don't just say I want it. And I was like, I'll die in the streets of Connecticut,
Right.
And it was one of those things where I was like, am I being selfish? And I remember talking to a real prophetic father, where he used to live in North Carolina. And I said, look, man, I'm struggling with this, like one of the biggest ones ever. And I said, am I missing something? And he said to me, God is wiring you for the next season. And those are the little things, the little uncomfortable things, Yeah. But I wanted it to be with relationships that we had. And I wanted it to be, where we had family. We love people, man.
Yeah.
And so there's a real great church in San Diego that's just doing a great work. We flew there. And I drove from Chula Vista up to, Oceanside with him. And he was there for the Vineyard Days. And he's just telling me, I'm not a California dude. And he's like, well, there used to be a vineyard there and a vineyard. And I'm like, bro, why did all the vineyard churches leave the beach? Now they're all bars and, strip clubs. And I remember sitting there going, why is the move of God on the beach gone? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I got up to Oceanside. I flew back to Connecticut to preach that weekend. I'm never really tired. I was exhausted. So I was like, I don't know if I could be doing this every week. And then we just, then we were like, well, we have great friends in Tampa. I was like, I'm just going to start there. So it was weird, man. It wasn't even like I had a plan. It wasn't like I sat everybody down and was like, I had no plan. I'm telling my pastors like, yo, take over, but I might be back here in 6 months. Right. I just knew. There's a picture of me in front of my house. It was a Yale professor's house. I can show it to you. We can show it. It was a picture of me with my kids. My car was loaded up on the thing, June of 2020. And as I'm taking this picture, like I had people I respected, not Brian Simmons. I had real fathers that believed that I should do this. Man, I had pastors that I respected and people I loved telling me, you're not supposed to go. And that messed with my mentals, man. So I took this picture with my family and I remember thinking, I could just ruin everything, man. No one thought that I was doing the right thing. And I'm like, you don't know what I'm facing. I'm not going to live a dream you want me to have so I could die inside. I felt like my season was done and God wanted to spread and do more in my life. Yeah. So I did. I just left everything. I was with Jason Upton one time and he's driving with me around the beach and he's like, he knows me, where I came from, all my journey. And he goes, nobody would know the sacrifice it took for you to build this. Because you see the acre of land on the beach and all these beautiful things. And you're like, bro, come on, man. I'm holding my kid going, I could be ruining your life forever. Right. All I know is I'm trying to follow peace, man. And it wasn't in New England. Yeah. And then we get down there. And so we have the churches and then another, just crazy, crazy thing, man. I get to Florida. Yeah. A couple shows up. They're like, are you moving here now? I'm like, yeah. And they're like,
somebody that you knew, like a couple.
No, I was in a meeting with them one time and gave them a prophetic word. And now they just showed up. Yeah. And it was weird, man, because, when you do a move like this, you're not going to greater glory. Right. You're taking a step back or two, needing to, and everybody struggles with that. You got to realize this isn't where you're going to be, but you took a step back. And I'm with 3 kids turning 40, making a decision that, everybody knew me for this. And I'm like, I'm out. Yeah. And I remember I got there and this couple shows up and they're in Christian television and stuff. And they showed up and they were like, God spoke to us when you moved here, that we were praying for you. We were waiting for you. And we want to buy you a house. And I'm like, what? And they're like, the housing market's going so high because of 2020. Don't worry about the credit. Don't worry about the money. We're going to buy you a home, anyone you want. You make the payments to us directly. And when you're ready to sell, I'll just put your name on the deed. You can sell it and have the money to move on to where God's calling you. Are you kidding me, man?
Yeah. Has that ever happened to you before?
That, no. I mean, I get crazy favorable properties, obviously, but not that. That was nuts. And bought a 605, sold to 840. Wow. Like within 8 months. But you have to understand, Rita, when I took that picture, And I had 2 couples come with me. I'm like, I don't even have a church. They're like, all I know is next to you, something crazy is going to happen, and I want some of that. I said, fine, but there ain't going to be nothing for us.
Yes.
20,000 over asking. 20,000 over asking.
Wow.
I sold that home, $55,000 loss.
The one in Florida?
The one in Connecticut when I moved.
Connecticut.
And all my friends were like, God's with me. And I looked at my wife and I said, God's with me in the $50,000 loss just as much as he's with them in the $20,000 gain. So I'm in that picture I'll show you.
Right.
And I took a loss on the house. And I had fathers that I loved telling me not to go. And I'm just like, I got to follow peace. And then I get to Florida and like, God gives it back to me.
Wow.
And then I get to Florida and I'm, and now our community in my living room's growing.
Yeah.
Just like it always does.
Yeah, yeah.
And now I got 20 people in my house. When I'm not in Connecticut preaching, I'm ministering to them.
Yeah.
Can we do once a month, James? Yeah, maybe let's do that. Let's get a little hotel. And one guy was a realtor. And I said, why don't you try to find stuff? And he called me and we're looking at all these, because 2020, there was a lot of empty buildings.
Right.
And I just want to rent
once
a month. And we're looking at properties and he goes, I got a property on the beach. I think it was a church. They took the cross down. And it looks pretty big. And she wants $1 million. Okay. I don't know anybody there. I don't have any people or money.
Right.
I just moved. Do you want me to look into it? And I'm like, I don't know. And then I'm going to a friend.
And it's for sale.
It's for sale.
Yeah.
And I think on the very bottom of the Zillow, it's like open to discussing down payment and financing options.
Yeah. Probably more so because of the era of being so much on the market because of 2020.
Yeah, no, it was insane. And I go to this meeting. I feel led to give, right? And I get a word that there's a building I'm looking for and God's going to give it to me. And now I'm up. I'm peaked. So I'm driving home 10:30. I call that realtor back. And I said, I like football. I said, do you believe in Hail Marys? It's just like a last second play where you throw the ball as far as you can to try to win.
Yeah.
And he goes, I do with you. And I had a vision of a contract merging together for this $1 million and all of the terms were on it. It was Mickey Mouse terms. $1 million. I'm going to give you 15% down, but I'm going to stretch it over 2 years. And I'm going to give you $200 the first month. And it was ridiculous. And then in it, I wrote, you're going to be the bank for $1 million and it's going to be a 2.4% loan. And you just need a realtor crazy enough to believe with you. And I go into a meeting and here's this Bulgarian woman with her lawyer and a real estate agent. And I feel like I've tried to dress nice for you. I come walking in looking crazy. And this woman who's not a Christian, as I walk in the door, she stops and goes, stop right now. You're the man I'm supposed to give this building to? A voice just told me, and everything in that folder, I say yes to now. Are you kidding me? Bro, her realtor and her person was like, you can't say that. And I'm like, yeah, here's your Mickey Mouse terms, man.
Oh my gosh.
And then we got, with no money, no people, I couldn't spell Madeira Beach until recently. And God gave us the property. Right. And then he gave us the one next to it for 1.3, similar situation. Yeah. Now here I am, 30 people in a church shouldn't be having all these properties, but then God begins to fill them and we begin to reach people and we begin to baptize people. And you came in and it was, it started growing. It's been an incredible thing. Yeah. And then, January. So it's funny, December of last year, I get a word for the year. I used to get individual words at a Christmas party, but then too many people signed up because they just wanted a word. So I just said, I'm done. I'm not sitting agonizing in prayer over each name. So I said, I'm going to give a word for the year. The word for the year in 2023 of December for 2024 was miracles. Unusual miracles.
Okay.
Sounds great, right? I go to all the different churches. They're all cheering and they're all excited. And I go to Madeira Beach and they're all fired up. And when I say that to you, our first thought is all the miracles I want from God for the year. I want a husband. I want money. I want a car. And as I went to bed that night, at the end of the year, the Lord says to me, you know what this means? And I was like, oh no. Oh no. I knew shaking was going to happen.
Wow.
In January 24th or 3rd, I was flying to Atlanta to preach. And one of my right-hand guys in Madeira Beach, Florida, Adam, he's like was a military chief diver, stoic, right? Not wild and creative. He tried to FaceTime me as I'm landing. I said, bro, you can't do that to somebody. And he said, you need to call your assistant in Connecticut. The building fell. And I texted him back.
Revival building.
Yeah, you should see my text back. I said, bro, stop it. You're so dramatic. I mean, he's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't say to somebody, a building fell. And he said, correction, sir, the steeple fell into the sanctuary.
Yikes.
And I went, oh no. And I'm supposed to give his great word to these guys tonight. And at that moment, I'm sitting on the plane and I'm going, God, I knew. You see, leadership doesn't matter when people are clapping who you are with thousands of people. When there's pressure is when you're really shown who you are.
Yeah.
I needed to make sure 2 things. My assistant was okay.
Yeah.
And there were no homeless people around that building.
Yeah.
And when I called her, I said, are you okay? I just need to know if you're okay. She said, I'm fine. I thought all I heard was the wind blow. I'm like, what? People were yelling at her. Get out. She's like, you can see her on the camera waddling out. And then she saw the building, and she opened the side door to go into the sanctuary because there was like a building attached to the original.
Yeah.
And she opened the door and she saw the sky.
So the whole steeple just falls and crumbles.
In the most graceful way you've ever seen.
Wow.
Yeah, we got footage of all this. I mean, it's crazy stuff. And immediately it was on every single news outlet on earth. ABC, Good Morning America, every single person's covering it. And I got a city doing the first search and rescue in the 169 years of existence of the city.
Because they thought
they thought people were dead under the rubble. Yeah. That was massive. In this town, ain't much going on. And I asked my assistant, she knew that breakfast program. She knew all those homeless people. I said, was anyone around the church? Because it was big. It was an icon of the inner city. People would sleep outside. And she said, take my word for it. Nobody was around here. We were done. It was 1:20 or something.
In the morning.
Afternoon. So we fed the homeless. They were all done. I mean, no doubt about it. If we were in the service, everyone's gone. You know what I mean?
Oh,
but here's the thing. You don't get insurance on these buildings. They won't give it to you. It's too old. It's too crumbly. When I didn't know. We had insurances, but you
didn't know.
I could have sued. There was one line that said, based on Google images in the year, we just don't feel comfortable covering the building. And I had people, as you could see it settling and cracking and, is this the Leaning Tower of Pisa or is this a disaster? You don't know.
Yeah, but then with buildings like that, you have to almost have like historical,
They have it and they're not helping you. And let's be real. In New England, what church of 120 people can afford that building? Right. You could put $2 million into it and no one know.
Right.
But immediately I was thrown into
the chaos.
Crazy. Now remember, I don't know if there's a way out. The church has crumbled. I got leadership that's acting crazy. No one knows how to handle this. That's why when married couples have a child with a disability, they rarely stay together. Because who you are comes through with this kind of stuff. Right. They're trashing me.
So you find out kind of who your leadership is.
Oh, man, get out of here. Good night. You see the good and the bad. The ones I thought were the greatest needed to move on. The ones I thought were just regular stepped up. It was a heartbreaking thing because you're losing a church, you're losing people, you're losing pastors, you're losing everybody. And you're like, wow. And no one would love that building more than me. Right. Everywhere I go around the world, I'm celebrated about that building. And now it's in a rubble of rocks. The city is coming in to do cleanup that they'll bill me $500,000 or $250,000 for. Then the first church that I got to know that day, they're trying to sue me for the money. I mean, the rubble's still warm. Bro, I got lawyers hitting me up. A building next to us said I damaged their property, millions of dollars they're hitting me with. And I'm like, just me. Every day in the paper lies about me. And God was like, don't say a word. mean, I'm always up for a fight.
And the word before the year broke was
miracles, unusual. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no one's thinking of that.
Hey guys, I want to just take a little segue here and tell everybody and get the word out about the new community and tribe that I am in the middle of right now on ritaspringer.com. If you want more content, I've had a lot of people ask me for when are you going to do this and when are you going to do that and when are you going to do this? Well, I have created a platform on my website under the tab community where you will be then taken to tribes. And I am inviting you to be part of my tribe. On that, there is a subscription tier that you can subscribe to where you can get different content. We are doing Bible studies and daily devotionals and throwing some cooking shows in there on my favorite recipes and doing mentorships and songwriting things that we're going to be uploading this year. So if you want to be part of my tribe, part of my community, please go to ritaspringer.com, click on that community tab and join my community. That's the best.
And I go up there to see the pile.
Yeah.
And I'm wearing a Yale coat, or just like I don't have winter clothes, and I'm outside and I'm greet my assistant and one of my other leaders come up and I'm with my kids and I'm looking at the property and I'm starting to cry and I hear James Levesque, and I turn around and bro, I had all these people in my face with cameras. Who's gonna pay for this? And I almost snapped. Excuse me, bro. Wait, what did you just say to me? And I'm closing the space. Right. Who do you think you are talking to me like that? This girl just escaped this building. You asking me who's paying for this? Right. Of course I'm going to cover the cost of this. Bro, get out of my face. My wife's pulling my coat. Right, yeah. Chill. You don't want to do something crazy. I'm not made for this media thing. Bro, get out of my face. I will knock you out, bro. What you mean? Who's going to? That's what your heart is? You want to write some sensational story? And I'm dealing with lost families? Right. Come on, man. 2 hours later, they publish it, million in print. Pastor says he's paying for it all. I'll show you the headlines. You can't make this stuff up, bro. And I'm like, what? I go to Walmart that afternoon with my children, probably 15 media people. My kids are like, did you kill somebody? What's going on, Daddy? I'm like, I don't know. Let's get out of here. Like, my kids are like, why can't we just go to Walmart? It's the biggest thing that city ever seen. Wow. And I'm and you got the mayor having a conversation with me saying so, every night he's doing press conferences. It's like his moment, dude. And he's a good guy, but it wasn't working, man. Everybody was like, I was the enemy. I had people raising money. You know, it's very liberal city. Yeah. I had people raising money. They wouldn't even give it to the church. They're trying to give it directly to the city because they don't trust me. Wow. Death threats. My wife. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. My wife, we haven't had a home yet. We're in the process of, we had some builders in the church say, we want to honor the pastor. We want to build you a home for cost. We want to honor you in Florida, another miracle thing. And I had somebody come and say they wanted to pay for it. Like, I just God thing, you know? So the foundation's poured. My wife on her personal Facebook, she don't do social media, was like, I'm so, with my kids. Look, we're starting to pour. Bro, she got death threats. Wow. I'm going to kill you. I hope you die. How dare you think you're going to have a house when your church fell? Yeah, people are crazy. Wow. And we come home from that trip. Yeah. And someone gave us the key to the front door that was there. And one of the wallpaper pieces we had from the early days when you were there at the storefront across the street. And my wife
of this old church.
Yeah, we had it in the storefront, but we put it in this church just to remember the old. Yeah. And my wife, as we land back in Florida, the Lord says to her, "What do you? There's no way out. You don't have an answer for this. There's no book for this. No. There's not even a pastor that's been through this." And the Lord says to my wife, "There's a miracle in that mess." And I wouldn't let it go at that point. We went home. Our wall in the living room was just, my wife put a picture. She wrote, it all started with a pork chop and a baked potato. And then she just put another scripture of promise and another one of promise. And we'd cry and we'd laugh. And I was dealing with all the pressure and the craziness of what's going on up there. Yeah. These people up there started, and I'm trying to pastor Madeira. These people in the Northeast quickly went from incredible to crazy. You know how many leaders, I'm like, yo, you're smelling like rubble right now. Right. You're reflecting trauma. Like, you guys are crazy. And every day I would wake up and we'd put another pic. I didn't know how it was going to happen, girl. I just put another thing. God, you're faithful, and you promised that you would take, all these things, And it was a little crazy because, like, I had no answer. At first you're thinking, I'm going to rebuild. Man, I can't even get out of the debt that I'm in. And I was on a call with some pastors in Langley about starting a church and helping them. And some are in there, some were part of the old church there. Yeah. They want my help, and I'm going to help them. And Langley just needs, gosh, it's crazy.
DC?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you talk about Ichabod, dude. Yeah. Like, these places God moves so powerfully, or like, literally is like Stalingrad. You know what I mean? Like, nothing will grow there. It's all like dead. I'm talking about spirit-filled stuff. So I love the area my wife's from. My wife grew up in the Langley Vineyard, like legit, like riding her bike going to the youth conferences. And so I'm going to help you. We're going to start a church there. So I'm on the call. I'm dealing with all of this. And this dude, I didn't even know. He's from like, old dude from like in Streams, or some old prophetic guy that's been in the area forever. And he gets on the call because he's part of the team that we assembled. And he goes, man, I know there's a lot of wisdom here, man. And James, and I met him once, and he gave me an incredible word, and he loved me. And he goes, man, James, I think anything you say we'll do in Langley, and it'll work. But I just keep feeling in the middle of all this that the Holy Spirit is saying, stop. Let's get back to presence. Girl, that's my message.
Right.
And I almost broke on that call, man. And I'm like, oh, man. And 2 hours before that call, my pastors called me. They're out. They're gone. From Connecticut. They're gone.
We're done. We can't.
So now I'm dealing literally, in 3 weeks, they were gone. So 15 years. So and they needed to, and God was moving them, and I love all of them. Yeah. And I'm sitting here on this call dealing with all this pressure. Now, they don't have a pastor up there, and I don't have a building. I'm being sued. And every day another claim's coming in. Because, all these people trying to get their money. Stop. We just got to get back to presence. And at that moment, I was like, I'm done. I went to the beach the next morning, and I said, Lord, you did this with a pork chop and a baked potato. You asked me a question. What would I do if I could do anything and I wouldn't fail? And I said I would play in a church and enjoy from hell. And you said, let's do it when I fed that first homeless person. I didn't sign up for this. If you want this church, take it. I'll close the doors. I'm not doing this. Yeah. Like, I'm not here in the arm of the flesh trying to keep something up. Right. A building collapsed. I have nowhere to meet. I don't know what's going on. Like, do you want this? It's yours. I'm getting back to presence. I don't care anymore. And it was like I had to rededicate a kid, man. Yeah. It's so hard when you love your children. You got to give them up, man. I was like, I'm done. I literally give up on this. There's no way out for me. You know what I mean? And every fundraising attempt failed. Like, it just was ugly. Yeah. You try to do a GoFundMe, one person gives and everybody wants to scrutinize it. Like, really, 50 grand? My lawyer fees were 50. Seriously? Right. And I just told my wife, the miracle, it has to be a miracle at this point because I'm done. Yeah. I'm done. I'm done trying to mobilize. I'm done trying to rally the troops. Like, I'm being killed right now. Yeah. And as I walked the beach, I got a random name of somebody that in the middle of the trauma in the early days, someone handed me a card and was like, this woman works with nonprofits to build, affordable housing. And if you ever need help, I just have this weird memory, dude, where I just remember stuff. Yeah. I remember the woman's name. And I call her and she's like, I will buy it from you. I'll pay for it all. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
The collapsed building.
Yeah, and she bought it. She said, what do you want for it? I said, I want you to pay off the debts. I want you to pay this off. And I need, $100 grand when we're done. because I got to pay off debts and try to move on. She said, okay. And then the guy next door that sued me for millions, he wanted it. And it was this ugly power. That's why he sued me. It was an ugly power struggle. And he called me and tried to extort me. He was like, you take my offer or your family's going to. I said, bro, I'm the wrong guy. Like, screw you. Right. I'll never talk to you again. Hung up on him. Then he sued me. So then I saw a break there. But still, how does this all work? Where am I going to go? And that night, the next day, after Presents, I get a call from a businesswoman I haven't seen in years. Incredible girl. We love her. And she was helpful to the church years ago, did flooring and stuff. And she just called me. Well, I couldn't take the call. I was with my kids. My wife sees it come up. And I just said, and she texts me back and goes, I think I have a building for you. Please call me back. And I was like, I'll call you back. We call her. She goes, well, I'm in the house. And my wife says, I have to be in Dallas, Texas on Thursday. This was Tuesday night. As I pick up the call, my wife goes, if you need to fly up there, you go. That's weird. I don't travel without her. And she's like, get out of here. I call the woman and she goes, a banker just called me that I know. I call him Happy Harry. I have a relationship with him, And he called me and said, I know who James Levesque is. It's not what they're saying he is. I need to get a hold of him. And my friend Rebecca was like, he is. And we helped her through life, man. She's an incredible woman. She was in an abusive relationship. We got her out of it. We were there on her 50th birthday. Like and the banker's basically saying, I watched him and his wife help you. I know he's not a monster and leaving the building to collapse and sped off to Florida with his millions, And he goes, I need to get a hold of him. I have a building for him. So she's like, just call him. So I call the guy. Hello, I'm done. Is this James Levesque? Yeah. How you doing, man? Hey, I'm so sorry what you've been through. Thanks. Yeah, it's been the fight of my life. Yeah. He goes, how would you like a building for $1? I said, what? What I said was, you don't know how bad I need to hear this. And he goes, I got a building in New London for $1. Can you meet me at this restaurant tomorrow at 11? I said, I'll be there. I flew up there, saw this church building, and closed for $1. It was the second congregational church, 3 blocks up the road.
And the one that collapsed was
the first. And if you read the history books, it says they built the second out of the overflow from the first. The first one was 17,000. This is like 38,000. The first one was like a 1 out of 10. This is like an 8 out of 10. Has air conditioning. The other one didn't. New sound system. The other one was trust. So in overnight, man, I close on this and it all falls in place. The lawsuits drop off. Everything changes.
Did you sell the old building?
No, I sold the old building and the woman did her diligence because she got a cranky neighbor. Right. And when she hired 2 external engineers to look at his wall that he said was damaged, they found it was a choppy patch job from 20 years prior. It didn't touch his wall. He was just mad I didn't sell him the building. You know what I mean? Right. So the lawsuits mysteriously drop off. I'm not trying to countersue. She bought the property. She's paying for the cleanup. Incredible woman, by the way. And then I get debt free
for $1.
For $1 with renters. Here's a funny story. One of my renters is the city of New London. One of the men in the meeting that was going at me in our Zoom calls, I had to give him a lease to sign. Tell me God ain't good. Come on now.
Oh my God.
Isn't that crazy?
That is nuts. That is nuts. So they're still meeting in that building.
What building?
They're still meeting in the same.
Yeah. Hold on.
Wow.
Yeah, in that building. Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, we just did 2 meetings, just like some meetings recently. We had 1,100 in one meeting and 800 in the next.
Wow.
So, but here's what you have to understand. And here's one of the greatest lessons I learned last year. God's answers don't look like your prayers.
Oof. Yikes.
Because on January 22nd, I had debt. I had a building that was struggling. I had people that were in place. All these things that were not supposed to be. God collapsed. This building collapses. And on the other side of it now, incredible pastors that just for the season need to be there. You know what I mean? They were perfect. The church is growing. People that needed to go, and just favor and all these things are greater than they ever could have been. So now, legit, I have like multiple different media outlets in Hollywood, and they all want to do stories on this, and, you know, but it's like, I would run to do it again. I would beg to do it again because I went to a different place in trusting God, you know, through the tears, through the what is going on.
Do you think that's getting back to presence?
I think it taught me that nothing happens without staying focused on Him. Now, maybe I didn't commit some, you know, adultery or moral failure, but you can commit some spiritual failures if you're not locked in. Yeah. And I was so consumed, even though I didn't respond. I mean, I'll show you so many headlines, dude. They were killing me. You know, one guy on the front page, and this is a big newspaper. We should have known James Levesque was a scam artist when he said someone got healed of this in his meetings. You know, and they're just...
Sorry. It's just when you know you, it's just so hilarious.
It's so ridiculous. Yeah, like if I want money, I'm not starting a church in New London, feeding the homeless. You know what I mean? And then like I was telling you today, 8 days later, I had 8 days. 8 days of thank you, Lord. 8 days of a miracle in the mess. And unfortunately, the year wasn't over.
8 days of we got
8 days
that.
of wow, this will be told for generations to come. 8 days of...
all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose.
And all hell breaks loose again. Worse, because we're on the beach and Helene comes in and then Milton. It was 2 back-to-back 100-year storms. We've done the storm thing, the sandbags, the this and that. It never comes. This Helene was 130 miles off the coast. We were out of town preaching or something. I had one of my youth pastors early that morning after it came through. We had sandbags up. I mean, it was 130 miles away. And you couldn't get to the beach because it was blocked off. And I said, sneak over. If you got to swim, if you got to sneak. At 4 a.m. he goes. Oh, and he calls me and he goes, oh, Pastor, I could die for what I see right now. I'm seeing cars on top of buildings. I'm like, oh, no. Oh, when we got the sandbags... And they said, what's your address? 153rd Ave, Madeira. You'll never flood. You're the high ground in the city, 3 feet. And yeah, he just said there was a water line of 5 feet through your whole building. My courtyard had a water line, and it's water, sewer. I mean, everything's gone, right? Everything's gone. Your windows are busted, and you're like, what? And now mold. It's Florida. Mold in minutes. And I'm just like, I can't. I just tell my wife, I literally can't. Because here's the problem. In Connecticut, a building goes down. If you're a congregant, your biggest discomfort is where are you going to meet the next week? In Madeira, I had 20 families with, a dog on the roof so the pets don't die. Right. So now the church building, who cares?
Who cares? It's all these families.
All is about families, man. Again, no playbook. No one's going to give me the sermon on how to do this.
Right.
So in my gut, you just follow what you know, and it's like, screw the building. I need to help families. I'm literally taking a boat in the middle of the night to get pills so somebody can, and I'm trying to get belongings, and people's homes are gone. I mean, gone. Wow. Even recently, people still didn't have power, and we're 8 months. Wow. And, and no one cares. It moves on, but that place is decimated. And now you're dealing with, my pipes. In our rebuilding process, my toilets wouldn't flush. Why? Oh, because in the cast iron piping 100 years ago, no one thought, seawater might flood this thing. And the seawater destroyed all the pipes, and homes are being ripped up left and right.
Oh, God.
And even when I started to okay, guys, we're giving money. We're doing all we can to our families and giving everything I can to help families and love on them and get them homes and shelter and opening our bedrooms, and everybody's taking a family. And then just about 8 days, because you got to mitigate the damage. So you're so there's piles of rubble everywhere, all over the streets.
Yeah. Well, I've seen some of your pictures.
And then another one comes. And it was the wind. And now the rubble just becomes weapons and everyone's roofs are ripped off. And I'm done. I'm literally done. I mean, who cares? And the funny thing is like I had somebody come in, you actually came in the fall, and then shortly after I had another friend, and the friend was like, I just feel like this property is a seed for something greater. And I'm like, ooh, do we sell and just move inland? And
right. When I came in, you guys were kind of bubbling about maybe perhaps we sell this.
No, that's what we were thinking. Get out of debt.
Yeah,
exactly.
And finding almost this really beautiful story in how much it was actually worth.
Yeah, it was worth a ton. So I got an assessment, it was $5.2 million, Rita. $5.2 million. I thought I'm getting out of debt before the storm. 1.7 I would sell. I go build a place and we'd just be able to feed them.
It's just too good, James. This is too good.
And so I'm thinking that's the promise. And then the hurricane comes. Nobody wants your building. Oh, and everything's done. All the values are. Nobody would give you pennies for that thing. And I'm sitting here going,
oh my God, it's so good. That's why when I was on the phone with you, I was like, bro.
Yeah, I called you.
So
no,
good.
yeah, and I was Rita's like it's so good.
I think I did tell you.
I'm calling her in my weakest moment. After the second storm, I said, Rita, I can't do this. And she's like, oh, James, this is awesome. I know you. Just sit. You said eat popcorn and go get a steak and watch what God does. I'm like, yeah, easy for you to say in Nashville.
James, it's like, I mean, what? You don't get this kind of pushback unless there is faith at stake
something
that
big.
Hell hates.
It's something big.
And I don't know how we're ever going to survive what's coming as a people of God if we do not start building arcs.
Oh man, we
you know
have to.
What I'm saying?
Come on, man.
So that's why it was like, it's almost comical. It's why I'm laughing. It's the saddest thing.
It's crazy. And it's so ridiculous.
I was just like, no, you're kidding. Like
two buildings in two cities that
I was in Sarasota when the second one hit.
I remember.
And it was headed right for Sarasota.
Yeah.
And I just was like, what is James going to do?
And it hit him. I know. My roof was ripped off.
Because it was and it just got worse and worse.
To this day, parts of our property, you just see the sky through the roof.
Well, where? Okay, so
and again, no insurance. You're on the beach.
No insurance.
You mean liability, but no insurance. So I'm screwed. So I'm telling you, you're all happy and laughing. I'm like, this chick's crazy. I'm not ready. I just literally feel war blown already from the year. I'm done. I'm done. I'm inside tired. I don't have it again. I'm out. Like, I'm done. Am I moving? Right. I don't care about this place. And I woke up because my wife's thinking, all right, my husband's going to have some amazing leadership plan. I said, I'm done. I said, Lovey, I'm out. I said, listen to me. I know you.
You chose this city.
I know. Yeah, I know. I did. I know. Exactly. I'll wherever you want. Yeah, exactly. All my cities are getting busted. I said to my wife, I'm sorry if this hurts you. I'm not doing a GoFundMe. I'm not doing a video. I'm not calling my ministry friends. I'm not begging for money. I'm not prophetically insinuating I want money. I'm not trying to hint that I want. I'm nothing. I'm not doing anything. If God literally, I mean, you're a million. Rita's millions to rebuild. I don't even. I said, if he's going to do it, he just has to do it, or we're just going to fold up. Not fold up, but just we'll move somewhere else and just,
Okay, let me hold you right there for a second.
It's about to get crazy.
That place that you get.
On the beach?
Just emotionally as a pastor. And you have every valid right to just, I'm done. I'm done.
Right.
I want you just to speak into pastors that are so done.
Sure.
That are watching this.
Yeah.
That you have an outcome after this, but at that moment you're there, and it's real, and it's like, how do you pick up the pieces?
It's a weird thing because it's a building, right? And in some ways, when you're in ministry, like that's your crown jewel, is you have a property.
Yes.
But if you take the property away, these are some beautiful people I love.
Yeah.
They're teenagers, they're children, they're parents, I love these families. Yeah. And so there was never a moment I was like, I'm not going to help the families. And I wasn't doing it because it was a duty. We're in community. We still do the potlucks. Yeah. You know what I mean? Where you bring the sketchy food. Like I still do. Like that's our secret sauce is relationships.
Right.
Like, we love each other. We spontaneously dinner all week long. We're always hanging out. Every night when the beach wasn't torn, we would all gather and watch the sunset with our families, all of us. Every night. That's why the worship couple moved. They're like, yo, this is the book of Acts. Right. Every night. And we're not doing it to be cool. No one sees it on Instagram. We love each other. Right. So I couldn't separate, like, the building. And like, really? Like, I met some beautiful people there. That before I got there, they were out in the ocean screaming, God, when are you going to send? There's no churches on the beach. None. God, when are you going to send them? You promised us, God. Where are they? You know, these people waited for me. It was a God connection. So I always wanted to help them. I just had nothing for church. I couldn't do it. I couldn't play the game of raising money. And it's just, like ick.
So that's what you had just...
I'll help people, man. Yeah, I'll help people. Yeah. You know, and if we meet outside, we meet outside. And if I got to go back to a storefront, I'll do it. You know, I wasn't like, I'm at the building, I'm out. Like, I'm just tired of these things that were identities and these big, and everywhere I go, you're the building guy and look at all your family. I don't care about these things.
How did you not take it personal? Most pastors would take that personal.
It's a little weird.
You'd be like, something must be wrong with me that God doesn't want to bless me.
Yeah, if the second one happened during the first, I'd probably quit. I'd probably prophetically think he doesn't want me here doing this. You know what I mean? Right. But because the first one closed out in incredible, I mean, come on. When have you ever even heard that story? $1?
Right.
And then here's what's crazy. So I was ready. Like, I knew God could. Yeah. I just didn't have what it takes to try to make that happen or even think I could even. Yeah. My believer was gone. Yeah. And you're like, oh, I know you, James. Just watch it. Eat a steak. I'm like, well, these people have no clothes. Yeah. And it was just like, here we go again. And in helping people, man, and I saw miracles. Like, we're on the torn beach. I mean, there was a woman, her house got ripped off. She's on the second floor. She's crying out to Jesus. Wow. She doesn't know Jesus. Wow. And we're walking by and we're praying over her and she's weeping and getting her heart saved and, like, you know, saving people from like floods in their homes. And, you know, then there was one guy on his roof. We're like, do you need help? He goes, nah, I just called a helicopter and the thing comes and rescues them. And these rich people. But you know, so then we started doing something crazy. We opened our flooded building, literally, not even.
Mold all over the
and we just started getting supplies to give away. And I'm like, I'm going to use this to love a city. And let me tell you something. I saw people with Bentleys begging for water. I saw women with Rolexes wanting diapers. And it was like I was in New London all over again. Wow. They all had nothing. Because these people worked hard their whole life, saved up all their money, bought their properties, and it's gone. And now we're sitting there, 400 people. Over 400 prayed with us, saying they want Jesus in their life. I mean, that's incredible. Like, I got video of this. This is unbelievable stuff. Wow. Hot. Everybody just lining up around the block from this little church that no one knew was there, giving away supplies, man. It was incredible. So that part of me never ends. Yeah. I love Jesus. I do. I love helping people and loving on people. And that never changed. Right. But the whole building business thing, I'm done. What am I going to do, man? No insurance. There's nothing I can even do. I got money to rebuild. Are you kidding me? I just exhausted all my resources fighting legal fees in the Northeast. Right. And I'm just like, told my wife, I'm sorry, but I just can't do it. I'm not going to focus on the church. I'm going to keep helping families, you know, and raising money. Because I had a church call and say, how many people are displaced? And I said, okay, we're going to give you 1,000 for each family. And I love that because then I could help them or, you know, whatever. I had different people sowing different seeds at the time. And we helped a lot of people out. And when I went to bed that night after telling my wife I can't, I heard the Lord tell me, I'm going to begin to put it on people's hearts that you don't even know. And they're going to fund this. And I thought, you got to be kidding me. You know? Now, what I do know, at that time, the next day, I had a guy in the church, super handy guy. Like, we literally just sent him on a cruise for all his love and support. And he He could do anything. He could build you a house. He's one of the most incredible guys you've ever seen. And as everybody's giving all their resources, and let me just say this, dude. I called every hurricane relief thing you could find. They don't want to help us. No one did. No one. Samaritan's Purse wouldn't help me. None of them. We don't work with local churches. We're only helping people, or we're not there. And they're setting up their bases nowhere near the flood. Right. So it's like some of that's just crazy. I know they help people. None of them helped us. Like, it was really me and God. And this gentleman comes up and he's like, I could help rebuild homes. You know, I can mitigate mold. I can do anything. And he's like tearing up. I got to get the church restored. Wow. And if the money comes in, I'll do all the work for free. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. He's like, I'll work day. He works for the VA. He's the guy's been like, he's just a higher up. He's like, I'll work every night. I'll work every weekend. I just want to get the house of God back. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then more people started saying that to me. And then builders were starting to say it. And people were, you know, and then I was starting to go, God, what if you start bringing the money in? We'll take it step by step. Somebody says, what's the budget? We have no money. There is no budget. The budget is whatever comes in that day. But again, you're going to see me raising funds. I'm not going to put a thermometer anywhere. I'm not going to do, you know. Yeah. And it was a lot of people were displaced. So they didn't have internet. They didn't have, your cell phone doesn't work. It's satellite phones. It's gas. No one had gas. There was no gas for like a week. You know, people were waiting in line for 10 hours just to get, you know, $20 of gas. It was like, I mean, literally like a third world country. Yeah. And I had a pastor in Cleveland that I just met, Steve Witt, Bethel, Cleveland. And he, James, I barely know the guy, you know? I mean, he's a great guy, but he was like, I want to raise an offering for you guys. Can I do that on Sunday? I said, sure. Yeah. I appreciate anything. Yeah. I'm thinking in my head, if 1,000 comes in, I'm going to give it to, you know, Donnie. We're going to work. And Steve calls me that Sunday. Man, people really connected with your story. And man, $25,000 came in. I was floored. Yeah. I'm like, what? You know, I mean, if it's at cost now because the labor's done, it's a lot, you know? And that was huge. And little things like that start happening. And then the craziest thing ever, man. I don't know if you've ever been to the Albany, Oregon vineyard. Yeah. Denny Klein. Yes. So Denny, and I was there, I've ministered there. They're a great church. He's incredible. His daughter Emily took over the church like 10, 15 years ago or something like that. I ain't talked to them in that long. Yeah. And randomly, so my wife was like, people in the church want to see the church. They want an update. No one can get to the island. So we did. It wasn't a plea for money. It was, church family, we just got in. Look, my sanctuary, you know how the bottom of an ocean has sand? That's what the bottom of my sanctuary floor looked like. Everything's gone, you know, in the toilet were, you know, coffee bar materials. I mean, everything's flooded, everything's gone. And I'm showing the church just so they could see, here's where we are, you know, because now we've been taking care of families. Now we're just getting in our church. And I talked to Emily in that many years. And she randomly had like a celebration dinner, you know, just to like honor the church's history. So she brought in all these men of God and people she loved, history of that church in Oregon. That's fine. I knew nothing, and I didn't know she wanted to receive offerings for 3 missions. There was like one in overseas, another one somewhere, and then there was us. I didn't even know. Wow. So she ends up hitting me up on Facebook. I don't have your number anymore. I really want to get a hold of you guys. I've been watching your story. You know, I'm probably receiving offerings. So where should we ship it? You know, I'm like, oh, you're so generous. Here's my number. And then she calls me. I still have the voicemail. And she's like, James, this is Emily. First of all, I just want to see how you guys are doing. We had a great service and we raised some money. And, you know, there's someone in the church that really wanted to give a larger donation. And I just think you should connect with him. But anyway, you know, call me when you can. And I was just like, huh. And so, you know, it was just the craziest thing you've ever seen. As they're showing the video, you know, Steve Schultz from the Elijah List there, you know, and his whole organization and stuff. I don't know these guys. And God speaks to him and says, give $100,000 to that church right now. So, like, I ended up talking to his people and ended up really connecting with them. And I can never, again, you can't make this stuff up. Yeah. And then we start really, really going, okay, Lord, you really want to restore this thing. And then it just started happening. 50 here, another here. And then literally, one organization sows $350,000. Never even seen it like this. I don't even know any of these people. And they're like, God spoke to me to give you this. God spoke. And it starts becoming out of control. Not our church.
Right.
Nothing. There's no burden on these people. It was just started happening. And then it got weird. Like a flooring guy goes, I'm going to epoxy everything so it never floods again for a discount. And this one's like, I'm going to go do this. And I'm going to repair the roof and a video wall. I'm going to give you this at like 20% of the actual cost. And everyone started like, it was weird, man. And I'm watching it. I'm eating popcorn in a steak now. Right. Just watching this happen. And I'm like, only God could do this. And we're back in our building.
What? Hey, a little segue here to just remind those of you who really love what the podcast is carrying, love what I do. You know that I mentor, you know that I work with creative and artists. We are in some exciting things this year with my nonprofit, Wearing Justice, but I can't do a lot of these things unless I have help and donations. We are a charitable organization, a nonprofit, and it's Christian education based. And if you are out there and you love to donate to things that not just inspire people, but heal people while people are being inspired, would you consider donating to my nonprofit, Wearing Justice? If you just click this QR code that you're seeing on the screen, you can donate and give any amount of donation. It was greatly appreciated. I would so appreciate it because I can keep doing what I feel like God's called me to do and really keep believing in artists everywhere and how God is using the arts to heal people's heart. And I love that. I just love what I do. I want to keep this up, but I need your help to do it. So would you consider today making a donation to Wearing Justice and help keep this all up and running? Oh, already.
Fully restored. Our chairs come in a couple next week.
In the building that I was in.
Yeah, and day one, not one chair open, filled. No advertisement, nothing. You couldn't find it online. I never told anybody I was doing anything. Still haven't had a grand opening. Just reaching families, being a beacon in that city. And now, but you got to think, girl, I had the church. Then I bought this whole weird plumbing property we never used.
That's right.
It's all redone now. Offices, kids' church, youth. It is incredible. We have a little bit more left to go, but it's been unbelievable.
And it's just all been funded.
It's all been funded miraculously.
That's crazy.
Including worship leaders that just showed up.
Yeah.
And that are incredible.
That's insane.
Isn't that nuts? So there's two lessons I've learned in the past year. One is what I told you. God's answers don't look like your prayers. Sometimes it's designed chaos. If I could live that year again, I would run to it. Let
me ask you this, because I'm so curious about this, just stirred by, I've been pondering and walking through and talking a lot about what it looks like in areas of our life that have complete surrender on them.
Yeah.
There are so many different areas of our life. I did a whole podcast on complete surrender and full surrender. And I shared this story about how there was a tumor on my throat in 2023. Yeah. And I never got it checked. And the doctor was like, you're going to have to, if it grows, you're going to ruin your voice. But I never got it checked. And 14 months later, the Lord says, go get it checked. And it's completely gone. And I have this conversation where I'm like, how come you don't, my back hurts and I feel that, but you don't touch that. But right. I don't feel this, and you'll miraculously take this.
Right.
And he began to really talk to me about the things in life that are fully surrendered. And my voice,
right,
it's always been his.
Right.
I've never even worried about it.
Right.
It's just been like, whatever.
Yeah,
like,
it's there.
Even when things come against it, whatever, I'm like, well, whatever, God will get me through. Literally, it's this kind of just almost nonchalant, and the Lord's like, because it's fully surrendered.
Wow.
You don't live in the tension of it, but you live in the tension of worry over here and worry over here. And,
right.
Worry about your kid, worry about your finance, worry about this, worry about that, worry about your back, worry about your knees, worry about that. And he's like, anything that has this tension in it isn't, when you feel the tension, it's because there's not full surrender. You get to a point in this where you're like, what else is going to happen?
Right.
You know, you're just like,
sure,
where you almost have to have a sense of surrender, which is what it sounds like in your story. You're like building schmelding.
Right. It didn't matter.
You can't take any of this with you. It's all gone, but people are the thing. Let's just go help the people. Has that kind of always been there where because you do have this kind of like, where when the crap hits the fan, you kind of go back to center.
Go back.
You know, and you're like, well, okay, whatever. Like,
right.
It can get so bad and you get so weary and so tired. But I think what you have, James, that a lot of other people in their chaos don't have is the ability to find the center of surrender. What's the center of surrender?
Yes.
And when you said, that guy on the phone says, let's just go back to the present.
Yeah.
Let's just go back to presence.
Right.
Presence is full surrender.
100%.
And because where the presence is, where the presence of the Lord there is fullness, there
right.
is joy, there is all of those things, and each of us has to find that
mm-hmm.
for our own self, because we all have different levels of it.
Absolutely.
And there are some people and some pastors that would have given up.
Right.
Before the church steeple fell into
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Way given up, because it was just too hard to get one church planted, let alone plant a few others out.
Right.
But everybody has their own epicenter
right.
of implosion. And everybody has their own epicenter of faith and their own epicenter of surrender. Do you feel like your maybe it is the epicenter of your salvation, because it was so drastic and you understood loss? Like, what's your ease and surrender? Is it
right.
Is it your faith?
I think it's part of it. You know, I'll tell you something crazy. I was with Brian Simmons one day at his house, because he's like a dad to me.
Yeah.
He's older, so like his phone, the text has got to be bigger than anything I've ever seen in my life. So I'm sitting on the table. And bzz, an email comes in.
And you, of course, can read it.
I can see it. And it says, and I can see the super well-known man of God that's sending it. And he goes, here's my new Bible school curriculum. He's starting a healing school that would go around the world. I'm like, Pop, why don't you need to open just see what is going on here. And it's this super well-known, charismatic leader. And he sent it to Brian Simmons and a couple other scholars and said, can you just look at the doctrine? Tell me what you think. And Pop's like, oh, so-and-so wants me to take a look at his doctrine for the Bible school, but I'll take a look in a little while. And he sets the phone back down, and we keep talking. And then bzz, the response comes from one of the guys. And I could see it was Roland Baker. I could see who's responding. I said, Pop, I'm thinking, man, I'm in the front row to this. I want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
So he picks it up, and I said, and he's reading, well, we all can see it.
Yeah.
And he writes, I love the doctrine. I'm cool with it. It's very, North American. But my only issue with your doctrine, he said, I'm on a plane. I didn't really get to study it. I'm just telling you quickly what I observe. And the issue is, and not just with North America, but definitely in America, you have no grid for the doctrine of suffering. Oof. And your Bible school kids come here from Bethel, and they come from all around, and they want to know why pastors are getting beheaded and churches are burned to the ground, and they all leave. They all leave. And he goes, you better address it. And I got to tell you the truth, man. You can't sing about God's love for 20 years and think that we're going to have an understanding of suffering. Because all we're being told is how good he is and how much he loves us. Guess what? All hell's about to break loose in your life, and you're going to be confused because you sung for 20, and I believe in all this stuff. You sung for 20 years how good he is. And when crap is in your face, you don't know how to respond. Right. That's the issue. Yeah. There's no grid in America for persecution. Right. There's no grid for pain. There's no grid for suffering. We're so entitled now. He loves me. He's so good to me. He's da-da-da. He'll chase me down. And it's all true. And we're all singing from a place of a little child wanting it. Yeah. What happens when it doesn't work out?
It doesn't work out.
What happens when you get beheaded? What happens when someone gets skinned alive? What happens when your building falls? That's the issue, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, his love doesn't change because you lose everything. Mm-hmm. And we just don't, in America, man, we don't have a grid. We got padded pews and pocket preachers with money, and they're doing shady things. And we don't have, like, the early, I remember, I do have a regret in that first building. I threw all the hymnals out. I wanted nothing old. Take out the pews, take out the hymnals. I don't want a sign of old in here. Da 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 da. You know, we just wanted to make it all new. And one day someone knocks on the door. Pastor, don't get upset, don't get upset. I was cleaning out the attic and I found a hymnal. These are from like the 1890s. You want me to throw it away, Pastor? No, give it to me. Thanks. Shuts the door. I'm in New London. I'm looking at this hymnal and I go, man. I don't know hymns, by the way. I don't know any. If you try to sing them in a song, I'm the guy that don't know how to lip it. And I took that hymnal book and I went, Lord, I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to read it like a tweet. I don't know hymns. I know nothing about hymns. And I'm going to open it up and I'm just going to read it. Hours in tears. I've never seen more songs about the blood, the cross, protection. Oh man. And you know, it's like you had, you know, the greatest hymns were written out of pain. It wasn't what I want it to feel like. It was what's going on. And it's Annie Hawkins in, you know, in upstate New York or Long Island when her husband's beating her and she's in the window with the wind blowing and laundry there and she's crying. And she's like, I need thee, oh, I need thee. Every hour I need thee. And one of D.L. Moody's guys is walking by going, what is this woman singing? And she's like, oh, I'm just singing my heart out to the Lord. That becomes an anthem for all of their crusades. It wasn't, we're not writing them in songwriting rooms. And I love the community. Don't come at me. That's not how we do this thing. These people were bleeding. They were getting persecuted. They were getting beat up by their husbands. And they're just like, I need you. I don't know, girl. I think we don't understand. We don't have a grid for suffering. We're geared to go, what's wrong with you? Or you're geared to go, what's wrong with me?
And then do you think because we don't have an understanding for suffering, we have no understanding of surrender?
Oh, I think it's connected. Yeah, because that's all there really isn't a plan B for me. Where am I going to go? Man, I tried heroin at 14 years old. I remember a person handing me a bag of drugs at 8. Going, do you want $100? Who doesn't? Go down to that door, knock on the door, hand this bag of, it's drugs. I don't have nothing to go back to. So when all this gets hellish, I got to pull back, man. I got to get back to broken. Like, I know you. You changed my life, bro. Like, I met you that day. When I was in my mom's house and I was being dropped off from a dead church service and my mom was passed out drunk and the cop car walked by and all the people were out there and somebody gave me a Walmart Bible and I heard a testimony about a girl being stabbed and set free in that meeting at this little white church. And I looked up to heaven that day and I went, look, man, I don't know if you're real, bro. I don't know. And I'm looking up to God and I'm screaming, don't BS with me. If you F around with me, then I'm not going to F around with you. And I'm just yelling. If you're real, reveal yourself to me. And I don't know if you know who I am, but I'll give the rest of my life to tell people that you're real. Don't waste my life. If you're real, touch me. Fire fell down. And I fell on the floor and I'm bawling and I'm speaking in languages and I'm acting wild. Man, you don't go from that to, come on, what am I going to bring sin back in my life? Come on, bro. There ain't pleasure on earth worth that. I think it all comes back to that point. Like it's a message you can never leave. It's who we are.
Do you have hope for the church?
Yeah, I do. Well, I see my son's generation. I do. It gives me excitement. I don't know how it'll change. But I see 13, 14-year-olds meeting God, weeping on the floor. It gives me hope. I think a lot of people are a little far gone. Church it's gotten such a bad rap in some ways. Some ways it should have. You know, it's very corrupt. But I just don't see a path. I mean, it might look different.
Do you think that the edifice of big church is fading out?
I think God's clearly shaking it down, right? I think there's no doubt about it. We had a massive missionary move to the beach. He had packing out stadiums overseas, and he's from the Netherlands, and he randomly came to Florida, saw our little community, and was like, I just want to leave everything and move here, you know? And all his buddies in Orlando were like, what are you doing? Like, who's James Levesque? Why would you go out here? And he called me one day. He goes, look, I got a couple people flying in that need to look at you. ORU. I mean, these big dudes, right? Flying in from Tulsa. I'm like, here I'm on the beach, like in sandals. And I'm like, and I'm just walking them around my life, hanging out with them, being who I am. And these guys are in suits, and they're looking at it like, wait a minute. You bought this building? You didn't know anybody? No money? No, yeah. And I laugh. I'm like, I'm the greatest man of faith you never heard about. And these guys are looking at me laughing, and you know, and I invite them to sunset, and it's just all of us hanging out, and then they fly out, and he looks at me and starts crying, this guy, and he goes, I'm about to go to Bishop Oyedepo's church, the largest church overseas in Africa, and he goes, I just came from this big church and this big church, and he goes, let me tell you something. What I feel here, I don't feel anymore, anywhere. And for a living, he has to go church to church. But he said, what I feel here, I felt years ago. Yeah. And he goes, don't ever lose it. Yeah. Whatever you do. And I think in the day, you know, years ago, you would look at a pastor and be like, wow, it's noble that you're there 20 years. And wow, you're tenure. Now we go, what are you hiding? You're hiding something, you creep. You know what I mean? Like, credibility's gone. Right. I think the only thing that heals that is authenticity. Yeah. Like, bro, I can feel real. You understand what I'm saying? And all these guys is fake. Yeah. There's pastors in my area, man. I'm like, dude, look at your eyes. Hey guys, I'm here from this church, and I'm like, bro, you're such a crap. You know what I mean? Like, I think people want to feel real, and they want, you know, I think the days of a pastor not being with people, that's so stupid. Like, are we the church? The church doesn't mean there's barriers between us, and you know, like, nah, man. Most churches I go to preach, and they think I'm the one that needs to get saved. You know what I mean? Like, look at me. You know what I mean? I'm not here doing all these earthly things for you to respect me. Like, when you meet me, you'll know if I've been with God or not. And I don't know if it's from the streets. I've had that kind of discernment. You know, Bob Jones said that to me years ago, you know, and just, you hardly understand anything he said. And he said, Yankee is what he called me. He said, Yankee, let me ask you a question. What do you think is going to be the greatest gift in the end times when I'm dead? I'm like, faith, working of miracles. He goes, it'll be the gift of discernment. I thought that was the dumbest answer because I didn't understand it.
Boy, you do now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Wow.
And the problem with discernment is I can't just pray that on you. It comes from connection and surrender. Yeah. And the problem is we love the idea of hearing from God. We love the idea of what it gives you. But what we don't understand is God, he whispers. He's not yelling at you. Yeah. And most people don't hear the whisper anymore. Annie Hawkins did. Yeah. The early church did. Yeah. The early songwriters did. You know, and I think media is incredible. I think you're an icon. What you're doing here is phenomenal. But it's like, man, in this progressive world that is busier than we've ever seen it, who hears the whisper anymore?
Yeah, I think sometimes the danger, even the reality of the danger, is we need to stop praying that things make sense, and we need to start really looking at the chaos around us. What is God giving us in the gift of chaos? Yes. It's actually providing our own surrender to understand suffering. Yeah,
incredible.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I think we're trying so hard to pray our way out of it, that what if the greatest miracle is found in the midst of the tension of it all? Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
No, and I mean, I remember, I know you had Darlene on here one time.
Yeah.
I mean, she went through this cancer bout. I remember watching her in an interview. She said the craziest thing ever. She was like, I kind of miss it, meaning the connection I had with the Lord. Yeah. Who talks like that?
I know.
Who says I miss it? Because she understood something. It's in suffering that you have a connection you don't normally have.
I think, now when I look at my own life, because sometimes you when you're around certain people that don't think like you in some of the purest formats, just like how to treat people. You know?
Right.
You're like, well, how come I'm getting this, but other people aren't getting this when this is like an attribute of Christ himself? Like, why do I feel led for that? Or what do I feel to so leaned in toward that mercy or whatever when other people don't? Like, and you don't want to judge other people.
Yeah.
But I do think it's because that's been learned
Right.
in the midst of it. And when you feel the glory of being misunderstood, or you feel the glory of losing everything, or feel the glory of feeling orphaned.
Man.
You know,
Yeah.
And you really begin to see it, and you're like, oh, that's where the glory was. Oh, that's where the deep calling to deep was. That's you're ruined for it. You're wrecked for anything else. So when the chaos still comes, it's exhausting, but you train your eyes to look for the fish that no one else has named because no one's ever discovered them. And they only are found in the deep of the deep of the deep of the deep, you know.
And I think in a prophetic community, we love promises. So all we do is throw these promises, but we don't understand attached to them. My son being born deaf, and that's hard to deal with. My mom was deaf. That was a battle, man. Yeah. And then and then it's the plane. Well, it was in a plane crash in 2009. Plane crash. It was horrific. American Airlines. Literally, we almost died. And then we're going through these seasons, and last year, and you look at this life, and you're like, oh, it's so amazing.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Like, look at Jesus.
Every one of these moments brought us closer together.
Yeah.
And it brought increase at the end of it. And I don't want it. I'm not here asking for a trial.
Yeah.
But I'm going, man, from that plane crash, that was powerful because we got stronger.
Yeah.
And I just think, I don't know, man, I don't want to be the poster boy for suffering at all. But I think when you go through it,
yeah.
I was in an office one time and someone's like, Pastor, the devil's against me. And she's going on and on, everything going on in her life. And I'm going, that's just life. I'm like, yo, chick. I'm like, the devil's not against you. It's called living life. This is normal things. But we don't have a grid for
so we have to create a language to make us feel.
And the generation, I coach kids in soccer. It's like, these kids, are you kidding me? They don't have no grid for life. Yeah. Because they went their whole life, nobody's telling them the truth. Everybody's just telling them how great they are, giving them a trophy for participating, and then they get in front of me, and I'm like, you're trash. You're not trying hard, bro. And they don't, it's my issue with my 12-year-old because I grew up not having lunch ever in school because I couldn't afford it before I dropped out in 9th grade. I grew up, not being able to go in my house because my mom wasn't home, being locked out, and seeing people. I saw someone murdered at 12. Yeah. Like, that messes with you, man. And I'm looking at my kid at 12, and he's like complaining Disney's a long drive. You know what I mean? I'm like, bro, I'll hit you. And my challenge in this for him is when my miracle becomes his normal, how do I handle that? Because I can give him everything. Yeah. I can give him all the eternal things I built, earthly things. I can give him all that I have, but I can't pass down the pain and the struggle that brought me here. And so as a parent, I almost have to be the suffering for him. The wall. You don't talk like that. You don't act like that. You know what I mean? Because we are, they have this little community in Arizona they tried to build, like a bubble community. Yeah. They put palm trees in and all these things, and they wanted people to live there year round at one temperature, and it immediately all fell apart. The palm trees died within a month. Everything rotted, and it was perfect temp. And they didn't understand why. And a palm tree expert came in and said, these trees will never flourish because it needs wind. Palm trees gain their strength when they're blown over. And if you're not tossed, you die. Wow. They became weak. I know, it's crazy. I know, it makes crazy to me.
All right, so wrapping up, I just want to ask a couple questions. What would you, what's the encouragement that you would say to worn out pastors?
I think Jesus said it best in Revelation. Remember where you started. Do the things you did at first. We don't get into ministry.
Yeah.
All the perverts that have been in trouble. Originally, there was something there.
Yeah.
There was a spark at a young person. There was you can't write off all of their experiences.
Right.
Get back to who you were at first. I didn't sign up for ministry to be a building owner or a business guy or somebody that's in accounting. I got signed up because I love Jesus.
Yeah.
And I met him and I wanted to share him with people around me. So I think when you're discouraged and you can find yourself tied up with the business of ministry and church, and stay close to God, because you said misunderstanding. The first thing Brian Simmons ever told me, you want to be a pastor, the number one price you pay is the cost of misunderstanding.
Yeah.
You don't need to defend yourself. God will.
Yeah.
Don't compare yourself. It will kill you. Yeah. It will kill you. I literally don't care. Yeah. I don't care. I don't care if your church is open and mine's closed. I don't care if you're doing this and I'm doing. Why do I care?
Yeah. That's kind of threatening.
Oh yeah.
To other people when you walk in and you don't care, it's almost like some people can't handle that.
Right.
It's interesting. The power of not caring.
Well, it's just because I really, really want to please God.
Right.
I'm not here to please people.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's where you care about.
Yeah.
Like, and likewise, if a building's collapsed and a building's flooded, all the voices are around me.
Yeah.
I don't care. I got to hear one. That's literally, I need the piece of one.
Yeah.
I got to hear the name Julie to call her to buy the building. I got to, if you're not listening. So I think wounded pastors, man, it's a hard thing. It's weary. The church gets a bad rap. These guys are heroes. And like I say, the ones that are honorable, you're going to get to heaven. I mark my words. And it's going to be the dude that was faithful for 50 years with 50 people that's going to have just as many crowns as these loudmouth evangelists trying to fly on jets that literally are living a lie.
Oh, man.
It's Mother Teresa. It's loving the poor. Nobody's talking about the poor. It's not sexy.
No.
Nobody's talking about the poor unless they're trying to use it to make millions. Right. You couldn't even give to my program today if you wanted to. That's not my deal, man. No. God funds it. He takes care of me. I love the poor. We have to take care of them. So just stay true to who you are. Don't allow these things to take you away from. And I see it in worship. I see it in ministry. These people that loved God and burned for God, their flame goes out. Yeah. And then they start to uphold the machine instead of the breath of God. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I could take worship leaders. I could play a sound when they were young and burning, and I could play their voice today, and I could feel the difference. Yeah. I could feel the compromise. I can feel the settling. I can feel the pain and unforgiveness. It's just, you can feel it, man. Yeah. And then somebody like you comes along, open your mouth, and you don't need band around you, and people get frustrated with it. And the minute you open your mouth, I just feel love for God, man. I feel you've learned to stay beautiful through everything, and that's hard. Sometimes I feel like life is just one big invitation not to get bitter. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Oh gosh, I sure do.
I see these older people and I'm like, bro, how did you stay beautiful? Because it's so hard to out here. We all have a reason. Yeah. That's the thing. Hell, you said something one time to me in a conversation, you were like, unforgiveness, the waters are so big, they feel so good. Yeah. Everyone has a reason to get upset. Yeah. And to keep your heart continually clean, to not forget who you were at the beginning. That's hard. Yeah. I don't want to lose that love for God. I just think for pastors, that's what you got to do.
What about, last question, what would you say to people still waiting for a miracle?
Man, I would just tell you God hasn't forgotten you.
Yeah.
I promise you this. Faith's a confusing thing, man, because you don't want to fake it. You don't want to sit here and just say something even though you don't believe it. But you just have to know. Yeah. And knowing doesn't mean an answer is going to come. Right. Knowing means if it ain't coming, I still trust you. And that's hard. When I had all those scriptures on my wall and you came to my house, it looked stupid. And I didn't know something was happening. And I wasn't even doing that to get an answer. I was doing that for me. Because the Bible says, we share our testimony so we wouldn't forget the things that God did for us. You know what I mean? Yeah. I wrote those things down for me. Right. And I think when you're trusting God and believing for something, you just got to know he's not forgotten you. His word is still true. Even if you haven't seen it, it's true. And like I said earlier, God's answers don't come the way you look. And I know so many people that hold God hostage to what they thought life would look like.
Yeah. How did you put it? God's answers sometimes don't look like your prayers.
His answers don't look like how you prayed. And that's challenging because you pray, you think this is the answer, and then it's over here. Or you think this is the answer and a building collapses. And if you're not connected enough, you're going to think that's a sign that you're in the wrong place. Right. Instead of, I trust you, I don't have a clue. I'm telling you, I wasn't super spiritual. I'm looking at the wall in tears going, I don't know what's going on. I could be in jail. You know what I mean? I don't know what's going on. But I just know he's good. Yeah. And I just keep thinking, like, he doesn't bring you this far to abandon you. He didn't touch my life with fire as a young boy. I feed all these homeless to, like, have nothing. Yeah. That's not how this thing works. So I don't know why, but this is the path that brought me to where God wanted me to be. So good. And so we just can't just love. So much can be healed by just loving Jesus, man. Yeah. And just stripping the thing down.
That's so good. So good, James. Thanks so much.
Oh, thank you, man. I love what you're doing.
Coming out and just keep eating popcorn.
Come on. Watching this thing unfold. I know it.
Watch it all unfold.
I know, man.
Because it is a wild story, man.
It is so crazy.
Your life, it is. I mean, even those around you, it's like sometimes I'm like, okay, there's James. He's calling. I better go get something to snack on.
Seriously, man. I know, bro. Sometimes I feel like I'm looking at a different person. If I try to think about what I'm like, I don't even know that guy, you know? Yeah. And it's so weird.
It's so good, though. It's so good. Like, you'd never be here unless you'd been there.
It's true. No, it's a crazy thing. I know.
It's just, this side of it is so much better side of it because you've been through all that. And you just still know. He's pretty fascinating. The Lord is pretty fascinating. Oh, man. Well, and then when you get a track record, that's when you sit, you know what I mean? Like after the first building, you're like, all right, dude, like, you're going to do something here. I don't know what, but it will, you just know after a while. Like, I think of all the, like, just even pastors that might be listening to this podcast that have horror stories with their buildings. It's like, this is, you have to get to a point where you got to laugh.
Oh, you have to.
You have to get to a point where you have to laugh. Because it's just.
You remember I told you about the house we got and we sold for more?
Yes.
Here's something crazy. I put solar panels on that house. They weren't finished. My realtor friend did the contract. I didn't write that the panels have to convey. You don't need a lawyer to write the contract. Yeah. I lose $100,000. They made me pay the panels off before I sold the house. So in all my equity, 100 of it is gone. I literally bought somebody else solar panels. It was a big snafu. I had to call my friend and go, that $100,000 is not going to stand in the way of us. It was my legit equity I lost. Wow. Fast forward, I had people in the church that knew that happened to me. And a guy in the church goes, I'm going to pay the $100,000 back. He gave $130,000 that year. Never had anybody do that before.
Wow.
When I talked to him, he says to me, you know why I did that? Because God told me when you lost that $100,000 that it was going to come back. Can't make that up, man.
You can't make
No, but like, what? But like, you know how many people will go to hell for a lot less financially because they can't let it go? That's a lot of money, dude. And when you're trying to save up in that income earning era and you really need it, I lose it. I make a point to tell my friend, I'm not upset at you for forgetting that in the contract. $100,000 don't mean anything in our relationship. And then you don't know how it's going to happen and you're kind of ticked and wondering why you sold in the first place. And then fast forward, someone gives that much money. I'm not looking. So it's at the end of the year. I'm like, what in the world happened? And the guy comes and goes, I want you to know, when you told me you lost that $100,000, God spoke to me and said, I'm going to give it back to you. Wow. Come on, man. Like, that's just what I'm saying. Like, you just know by now. Bro, I want to trust you beyond my level of understanding. Yeah. I'm just going to know. You know what I mean? That's when it's like, I know. I don't know, but I know. And the thing with these buildings and the silly stories, everyone has seen loss. Yeah. Everyone understands collapse and calamity and destruction. And just know God's faithful, man. Yeah. He's there whether you feel him or not. He's there whether you understand it or not. Maybe the answer, not maybe, the answer is going to be differently than what you thought.
Yep.
And that's just how this thing works, man.
It's so good.
Thank you.
So good. Thanks so much. James.
Bring the pears back. What is this? Guys, what is this? What? Come on, man. Where's the pears? I wanted the pears, man. What is this? Isn't this a tattoo that girls get on their lower back? Bring back the pears.